King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Welcome to episode 588 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. As we get started tonight on the program, as you know, major news going out as the WWE Network is now being included as part of Peacock. We're going to talk about that tonight. But first, I'm going to play a clip, which I rarely do in this program here, of a previous episode. I want to go back to episode 550, which was August 6th of 2020. I was talking about Nick Khan back then. And here's what I said. The kind of money that is coming in now for WWE is incredible money. And that is Nick Khan. That's this guy. That's his team in CAA. There's a difference between how WWE is perceived by the fans, which obviously we are fickle, we are cynical, we are like, what the hell, man? We don't like what this shit is right now on our TV. It's just recycled bullshit. But when it comes to WWE right now, and you look at what's happening here, this guy is able to make WWE and Vince McMahon's legacy, make it sound like amazing to the people with cash. To the people with real capital, real dollars to put into it. He was able to get to the major broadcasters and say, you absolutely have to have this. Live sports is the deal right now. You give this show live sports. You get a Friday night, which you're guaranteed you're going to get 18 to 49 demo Fox or whichever network. You're going to get the audience here. And that audience is going to fit exactly your demographic. They're going to be able to fit exactly the what you need. Again, that was August 6, 2020, episode 550, where we had heard the announcement, the introduction of Nick Khan as president of WWE. Now, we know that back in January of last year, George Barrios, Michelle Wilson were let go. The change was made. And I predicted back then that Nick Khan was going to be an important caveat for the future of WWE. I didn't know what it would be. And I never really even thought we were going to go to this. But it was obvious that, again, like I said, the relationship that NBC, Universal, and WWE have had for so long, being part of USA Network. And, Peacock picking up some of the content on the Peacock channel, the Peacock streaming service. Okay, I get that part. But I didn't know, and I never really considered, I know, UFC got picked up by ESPN Plus, which is part of Disney, and they're part of a big streaming package now. I didn't know that WWE could have been part of that streaming package as well. I didn't know. I never really considered that. And here we are. Today, we now see it happen. It's reality. So, Nick Khan has come through above and beyond the Call of Duty. The power that, I'll tell you, for the one thing that WWE absolutely does have, they have brought in, if there was one guy or one connection they found that has been truly a genius move for this company, is Nick Khan, this former CAA executive. This guy working in the sports division of Creative Artists Agency in Hollywood. This guy hit the golden goose. Basically, again, you're talking about not just more money they got, like the deal they got on Fox. I don't see how this doesn't work out in the long run successfully. For Peacock, for NBC Universal to go and add first of all, they took part of the programming to put it onto Peacock as part of the premium, as an added bonus. To take the whole network and move it over is incredible. Now, for Peacock itself, that is a major move for them. It's going to pay off because they do need live sports. Now, we're going to read more about what happened here because the industry itself, which, when we have these kind of stories, I will delve in. even probably even more deeper than what a Dave Meltzer or Brian Alvarez will, because this is my will well. I talk about media, digital established media, all the time. And when you see, and the thing is, if you listen to my broadcaster's podcast for any length of time, I would recommend listening to that show if you want to just, if you're curious about media. Well, I've been talking about how there's been a digital disruption. You see it in all forms of media: music, movies, TV, and radio. Now, focusing on television, we already know that television and movies, because of the pandemic, everything escalated. We were going to see that movies, because of the lack of movie theaters to go ahead and watch the movies at, the newest movies had to go and get played somewhere, and they can't just sit on there. They just can't be sitting there with the production budget and the budget that was already put in, because those movies are ready to release. They need to make their money back, because as they sit there not being played and not being distributed somewhere, somehow, they're losing money on it because it's on their annual funds. Like it becomes a liability to them. They have to get the movie out in a certain amount of time. And that's where the company is right now. They had to do something here to get their movies out. Same thing here with, what happens is with television, TV shows, network TV, we see how everybody's just kind of like falling apart. For the fact that WWE is coming in as an established product of sports. And the idea is that they have been familiar with network TV in some way, shape, or form through NBC for many years and on Fox at some points, even prior to this. It's an established brand, and it's something that is a comfort more than ever. Whoever thought wrestling would be comfortable to the eyes of network television like it is now? Corporate television, corporate media. Whoever thought that one wrestling company could be the darling of it? But that's the testament of Vince McMahon, because this is a truly operational, multi-billion-dollar company making lots of money in multiple fashions, in multiple pipelines of money. This company makes money in so many different ways. And it's been doing it off of subpar content for a long time. Subpar content they've been living off of the legacy for the last 20 years. Think about that. Soon to be 20 years complete once we get to March 26th. So 19 years and 10 months. They've done it. What happened now with this Peacock deal solidifies their spot. That solidifies their pipeline for money. Again, billions of dollars coming to this company in multiple pipelines. I mean, there's no way this company could ever fail. The future of this company is secure. Vince McMahon, it could very well be prepared to go ahead and let his baby go. Because when he decides to retire, wants to get out of it, he can sell this most likely, as he already has the network now and all their properties, all the video library, it's already up there. Take a big payment or stock, whatever he wants. But Vince could go ahead and take this public company, envelop it into NBC Universal, and go off into the sunset. And for Vince McMahon and the McMahon family, that's a success. A successful company that goes ahead and then is bought out. Because NBC Universal, with all the influence they have, with the kind of connection they have now, the relationship they have with WWE now, they could just take it. And that's it. Will that mean content's going to be any better? Well, everybody's been talking about the content. But what we have seen is it's the epitome of the one thing that no other wrestling company can do. And maybe we'll not be able to do in the next decade, 2 decades, whatever. But no one in the near future is going to be able to go ahead and be able to compete with the kind of resources, money, distribution, reach. I mean, every kind of resource you could think of. WWE now has a backing of one of the biggest corporate companies in the world. And let me tell you, they hit one of the big ones. Now, they have relationships in broadcast contracts, but again, I mean, UFC, they brought their content over, but again, they just moved their content over. But again, with WWE, they already have a built-in network. They already built their own proprietary platform, and it was working so well, and it's been working very well. And they're just going to up and move it over to Peacock. Now, people might not believe this, but the truth is Peacock doesn't I mean, they have some things to hold on to and to provide, but of new content, this is something they absolutely needed. Like, this is very important to them. The pay-per-views, the content to be able to get where they can go, probably push Raw, that's going to be available. That's new content every week and every month. That's going to be made available to this platform to get people to buy it. To go ahead and get 1.5 million wrestling fans, or what, about a good million wrestling fans here in the U.S., to buy into Peacock consistently, that helps. Now, of course, they need more. Like, Peacock needs a whole lot more than this. But the other thing that's got to be mentioned, too, is the reach for WWE now, when it's on this Peacock platform, more than anything else, I think on demand goes skyrocketing for them now. Because in a way, the live or the real-time content's not going to matter anymore. When you have this kind of money coming in for on-demand content, and for all the documentaries, all the different things you're going to have, plus they're going to have, we don't know who's going to be held on or who's going to get brought into the mix for NBC Universal after this. Who in the network will be retained? I'm going to guess that most of the people that are doing the content will be retained. A lot of them will, because they're doing great stuff. It's just amazing quality. Like the documentaries, the specials, they're all done, right? And a lot of those production people can go ahead and work within NBC Universal on other projects, on live sports, whatever it might be. So they're going to become they'll probably become NBC employees, or Universal employees, working on NHL, working on whatever. They're going to have that kind of ability. And then, more than anything else, I think you got to just look at what they can do now in terms of, I mean, again, it's just a cash flow. It's just a faucet of cash that's never going to stop. An ATM machine that's always full. They don't have to work hard anymore. They can do the status quo. Now, will NBC Universal push now for Monday Night Raw, which is on their network of stations? That show needs to perform better, you would think. But then again, will people actually then just get into it? Oh, the network will make it easier to go ahead and say, because obviously then I think they would do things where the network would provide Raw and SmackDown a much, a sooner window. They would have a shorter clearance. They would turn the show around next day. So what could happen is that WWE will not be much of a live product as it will be, maybe the live stuff for the pay-per-views. But then when you're watching, on network, if you're watching on demand, you'll watch it there. And they might get some other people to go ahead and follow along, because I would imagine the marketing that Peacock will put into it to try to get that out there. Like, this is a major asset for them. I mean, they're going to milk it dry. If it's the corporate sense, just like I saw what Disney did when they did their presentation back in December, and they said, okay, we're going to do 10 projects for Marvel, 10 projects for Disney, 10 projects for Pixar. And they did it. They did it all, and they can absolutely do this here with WWE. You got to keep cranking out specials, cranking out documentaries, cranking out different original series, and put it out there. And then remember, you have all those shows because E is part of this whole package. And all those shows, including USA, So Ms. and Mrs., Total Bellas, think about it. All those are going to get put into this, Total Divas. All that's going to get brought into the mix. And who knows if some of these shows come back? Because I think what's going to happen as well is that some of these stars, they're going to get embedded into other shows. Things like that will happen. The relationship, so basically, I just feel like that with that WWE right now, their home is NBC. NBC is basically is welcoming them in, and eventually is going to become their home. So I think down the line, Vince McMahon will be the Jim Crockett that will sell to Ted Turner. So I think WWE was definitely going to have its own Ted Turner at some point. Now it goes back to the days of WCW and how we always hear about Turner, right? And AOL and Warner Media and all this other stuff, right? It's interesting that we're seeing a major corporation want wrestling. That wrestling doesn't feel Bush League, doesn't feel hokey anymore because it's been professionalized. And WWE has definitely put the polish on all of this because the wrestlers look amazing. It's not the old school carny type wrestling that they talk about. And I get that part, that you have to have that. The athleticism is there. I mean, listen, when you think about how all the stars in WWE, they're basically like American gladiators out there. You got, for the credit of Vince McMahon to have the stars with appeal, with amazing bodies, with amazing acumen and skill, the athleticism, just the competition, just the way that they have it as a sporting product is good. But again, the wrestling portion that we all wish for, the carny version, the promos, the quirky, funky storylines, we're not getting those. We're not getting anything like that. And that's what all of us fans, we don't want to just accept the fact that it is changing. Because WWE's not going to give us that. Now, everybody talks about the content being mediocre. Yeah, but they're also doing things where they're playing it at a certain line. They're not going to go back to old storylines. They're not going to be too salacious. They're not going to go back to Attitude Era type stuff. They need to figure out what they're going to be next. And, and the stars that you bring on board also have to be reflecting of that. And, they're going to keep working with the stars they have. It's like a soap opera. You're just going to go back to the guys that are tried and true, that are going to be able to work, that you could trust, they're going to be safe, and you know what you're going to get from them. And that's where we are with Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and the rest of that team. Because it's like they just cannot go ahead and try something new, something different. They need to go with familiarity. That's what they have to do. And for the corporates, they're going to expect that too. So like seeing a CM Punk come back all of a sudden, or seeing some crazy storyline and seeing some young stars, they say, all of a sudden, let's give Matt Riddle and Keith Lee and Ricochet, let's get them some pushes. Let's get them towards the top. Let's get Daniel Bryan back towards the top. Well, it's that WWE, the fans, they're not going to matter as much. Again, it's their betters, as William Regal will say. They're betters. They're the ones that matter. Now, we always thought, listen, they always had a way to go and work around the stockholders, and now they have a complete answer. You talk about the stock, nobody's going to talk about the stock anymore. Like, I don't know how much it went up today, or how much. Well, actually, no, today was a really weird day in the stock market. I'm watching this today because you're looking at, GameStop. If you haven't watched the media stuff going on, the media, GameStop had a whole major thing on the stock market because their stock price went up like 400% or something like that last week. Went from $40 to $140 to $300 today. Like that's just ridiculous. And it was some Reddit thing that was going on, so whatever that is. But in the same time, rough day on the market as I record tonight, January 27th. But then I saw that the market was doing well. Was not doing well, but the stock anyway hadn't been performing well for them anyway. Because even today, the stock only took a little bit of a hit. Like it's down $57. But again, it wasn't like that for a while. Because going back to January 11th, 47, 48, 47. So again, they went up $10. And it took a nice bump from 53 up to 57 as a result of the news of Peacock. And that's going to play in spades. And again, once they move over, so the next couple of months are going to be good. Hey, future money coming in. That's very important, right? The other thing you got to ask about it too is all the subsidiaries that WWE has as well. What are those going to be, right? The studios. Will that be enveloped eventually? Will the WWE studios be doing content for Peacock? Could that be something down the line? Would Tap Out be a part of all this? Like, what else is going to be part of, into the whole thing here? You're going to ask yourself that question. It's just so many different things that should be considered, that what happens here, it's important. And to look at the context of what this is all about is incredible. This company just got a major victory. Now, yes, many of the fans are starting to see that, this is not good for the fans, because now they know, WWE always works good with a chip on their shoulder. They work great when they're up against the wall. When they were near bankruptcy back in 95, 96, or 94, 95, and they made the turnaround, right? And again, when they are on the way up, they were great several times. Mid-80s, late 90s, they did it. And they lived off of that. And they had been living off of that. This is a new era for them. They have to identify who they're going to be in this next era. Now, they have a couple of things that are related, that have, you get an idea of what they're trying to become. But again, this is where they need to live off the marketable talent, their main acts. And they have some main acts that are interesting and different. But they need to go ahead and really, this is where, you've heard the phrase, maybe you've heard that in the world, in social, like it's social justice, diversity, equity, inclusion. Well, they need to go and offer that. And they're trying to do that now. I think it's one of the things they've been trying to do more than anything else, as what they've been doing. Because you're starting to see some of that as we speak. In diversity, we're starting to see, you're just starting to see some more talent, some different people. Just it's a different kaleidoscope of people and styles and races and cultures and all that kind of stuff going on. So WWE, when Peacock now picks this up, they're going to market this. They're going to market Roman Reigns, Sasha Banks. They could market Asuka. They can market Drew McIntyre. Global brand. Again, a global push across the board. And I don't know where Peacock's supposed to go when it comes to the rest of the world. But again, worldwide distribution, a global brand for this company. And for them to get such a deal, even with the live shows gone, still for the foreseeable future, we're going to get fans at WrestleMania. But the kind of money from merchandise, ticket sales, and everything else they got going on the road, and they're still able to get this. Again, the pandemic. They survived the pandemic for a corporate sense, and they have succeeded as a global corporation because of the pandemic. They've been rewarded. Royally rewarded. Not Royal Rumble. Royal reward. They have been rewarded for surviving the pandemic, for doing what they've done. Now they're here. We got to look into the stories. How this is so important. And really what the industry perceives this deal to be, because that was the other thing. The kind of press they got. The one thing that I'll tell you more than anything else is that it's not so much where back in WCW days, when you had a Ted Turner as your owner, as the head honcho, the head of the company, who might have been quirky, might have been out there, but man, he is a testament in the success. No doubt about it. He did it his way. Now, with that time, we had an Eric Bischoff who had a presence, a way to present himself as the executive vice president. He was able to go and talk to bigger companies and talk to bigger brands. But Eric Bischoff is no Nick Khan. Told you. When I told you back in August, when I told you the pedigree of this guy, Nick Khan from CAA, I said, watch out for this guy. Watch out for him. And this is what he's been doing. And I remember there was a while I asked, where is Nick Khan? What has he been doing with himself? Well, now we know. Now, look what he's done. Hey, pat on the back, Steve Lombardi. I'm telling you. It was Steve Lombardi. Yeah, pat on, or no, it was Barry Horowitz. That was a pat on the back. That's what it was. It was one of the other jobbers. So yeah, pat on the back to Nick Khan. He gets a lot of credit for this. This was him. His connections, his wherewithal, his connection as CAA. And it's basically looking like the CAA stamp of approval, the acceptance. If Nick Khan says it's good, then it's good for us. And NBC Universal's all in. Fox is already all in. Now, of course, how long this deal left with Fox. This is the other thing too. So the Fox deal is just a bonus now. They're just getting extra points. Because, they got the big deal from Fox. Fox might not even hold on to them after this. But if more than anything, we already know as well that that USA Network, we talked about this last week, where, oh no, we actually didn't talk about this yet. We have to go and talk about that. The NBC Sports Network, which is, of course, there's the arm of NBC Sports that does programming for the major network, but then they had their own, when they had all the other content that they were holding on to, the NBC Sports Network, which has been on for 1995, the idea was that they were actually pushing it down. Everything was just going away. So now, the NBC Sports Network is going away. It's gone. It's going to be gone, I think, in March. And actually, they're going away after 2021. Rumor for months. And then you're looking at all the things that were going on in terms of what content they had. They had IndyCar racing. They had some NASCAR. Or some IndyCar, they didn't have NASCAR. They have soccer, which is not a major product. They also had NHL, which is not a major of the major sports franchises. But they had quite a bit of content, right? But the thing was that NBC Sports Network was just kind of fitting a role for all this other sports content they had. But now they're going to decide, okay, you know what? We're going to get rid of that. We're going to downsize it because we need to put more content to Peacock. That's what's happening. NBC Sports Network is just another linear cable channel faded away, and they're going to move all that content over to Peacock so they can have live sports accompanying WWE. Now, here's one of the things you probably didn't know. So, NBC Sports Network is shifting their content, some of their content, over to USA Network or Peacock. It's the process of keeping current with the ever-changing ways in which we watch sports or movies or anything else. The transition of everything streaming is moving faster than ever before. And the corporates are afraid because, you know what, Netflix and Apple and Hulu and all these others, they were ahead of the game. Again, Netflix just broke 200 million subscribers. WWE is they're just benefiting from all this. Now, USA Network is second only to ESPN with 86 million households. That's how many people they can reach. NBC Sports Network reached out to 80 million households. But now, Peacock has 21 million subscribers. They're hoping that all this move of sports is going to help them boost their numbers up. Get that male demographic over there to go ahead and watch their sports. And because WWE might be tacked into the sports category, people are going to be able to see that. And you know what? We'll see what Peacock does for their on-demand content. And again, the network will have their pay-per-views over there. Now remember, the network price for those that subscribe to the network, in March you just change. In March you just basically say, oh, okay, my $10 goes to Peacock. And you get all their programming. So I know my $10 a month for WWE Network goes to Peacock now. In March, I change it. That's it. And I get Peacock now. Along with Amazon Prime and Netflix and HBO Max. We're just taking advantage of all the streaming that's coming in. Now, NBC intends to show some NASCAR, NHL, Premier League soccer on their outlets. and IndyCar might still continue with them. Also, NASCAR has a contract with NBC that doesn't expire until 2024. So they also had that as well. So you just got to see all that's going on right there. There's just a lot to be said about what happened. So NBC Sports Network was going away, and that USA Network now becomes a more important platform for NBC Universal. The ownership of Peacock. So here's the thing. Okay, Peacock had 22 million subscribers by the end of 2020 of October. So the NBC Sports Group will now say that USA Network is now an extraordinarily powerful platform. So Pete Bavacqua sent an internal memo to staff last week, January 22nd, quote, at the conclusion of 2021, the best strategic next step for our sports group and the entire company is to wind down NBCSN completely, with key elements of programming on the USA Network and in some cases Peacock for 2022 and beyond. And by the way, NBC is going to get a lot of looking at Peacock for the Olympics, because the Olympics never happened last year. And now, when it comes to Peacock, they're going to get a lot of eyes watching the Olympics. They just some people just feel like it's going to happen. So again, there's a lot of eyes watching Peacock for so many other things, and they're finding more reasons to get people to watch. And again, if all this content's moving over, this is just a bigger audience that WWE gets. And again, it just will be a laissez-faire audience. It will not be the diehards. But again, the casual fans might start catching the on-demand content. It'll be so apparent. It'll show up in that front feature on the homepage of Peacock. People are just going to catch it. Again, for the network to be there standing alone is different, because that's only going to focus on the base audience. Now, they have a growing audience already coming in at 22 million and growing. And then they're going to start moving all this content over. Then that's what they're going to be able to do. I mean, they're going to have a lot of content that's going to move over the Peacock, because they're going to have that. And all that extra audience is going to be there to watch it. And they're going to find WWE, and they're going to probably find some new fans, some new adopters of wrestling will actually catch on. They might actually just think, oh, this is kind of novel, this is kind of cool. And all this content they can binge on. Because you know what's going to happen. With Peacock, they only have so much content they're going to binge. Yeah, sure, you're going to have The Office, you're going to have Friends or Seinfeld or whatever. Sure. But when you get done with those, you're going to, just like a Netflix, you're going to buy this service, you're going to binge everything. You're going to go through the entire library for some of you out there. And the wrestling is going to get binged. And people are going to go and catch up on the content, and they might start watching, hey, it's on new every week. We'll start watching it there. I think that thought process is coming in. You get a lot of younger adopters. Remember, you have a lot of people that are streaming that are just watching because they will be watching. Those are the ones that are going to be streaming, the younger audience. So if you get them on board and you get them to go and adapt to it and adopt going into watching wrestling, they might just do that. Again, on that platform, I'm going to see what Peacock is going to look like pretty soon. But I'll tell you, when I get to that point, not to mention, they already have an audience when it comes to the Comcast Xfinity users, because it's already part of the package. But again, they're finding more reasons to get people to go ahead and get on board. Because the NBC Universal is going to do nothing more than try to go and get Peacock to be as big as Disney Plus, which already has 90 million subscribers. Get as big as Netflix, which has 200 million. Get as big as HBO Max, which I think has 40 million already, thanks to Wonder Woman 1984. And then all the movies are going to put on there. So every streaming service has to have something that's going to get them to go ahead and make people go and buy, put their $10 a month, or $4.99 if you want to buy ad-supported content. So that right there, again, they're fighting for dollars just like anybody else. And now the network, which really, when you think about it, this was an eventual move from them. This was going to be a logical move. That they just cannot be a network that offers people to go and pay $10 a month standalone. They're going to have to bundle. They're going to have to be part of a bigger network. This is going to be a common thing, especially this year and going forward. There will be other platforms like this that are standalone that will get swooped up by a platform like Peacock. Paramount Plus is going to be like that. You know, Disney's already got ABC and Fox content. So the major networks are covered. And there will be others, like a CW, right? That'll get switched over, right? Somebody will pick that up. Now, Discovery Plus just started out. They're going to have their own content. Again, you're going to have all these, but they're going to all get conglomerated into a big bunch of globs of content where then you just still spend $10, $15 a month to get all this stuff. They're all going to take the model what Disney Plus is doing right now because they got ESPN, they got Hulu, you got your live content, your live sports, and you got your all the major properties that you have. You got these properties that are important. Like, seriously, you know, everybody kind of just like, you know, talk crap about the WWE Universe. Well, we already know about the MCU and DC Universe, right? Well, now the terminology of universe now fits more than ever for WWE because now they're on Peacock. It's amazing for what this company, and Peacock just started, by the way, April 2020. And now, I can imagine that Nick Khan came into this and said, you know what? Now that Peacock came into play, probably was trying to work on the deal to get something up there. But I could see where Nick Khan probably was responsible to get some of that content up there. Here's a bunch of hours of content. Put it up there. Maybe the numbers they had on that content was doing really well. They said, you know what? Put the whole damn thing up there. What do we got to do to get it? What can we do to get the whole damn library? Let's get it. Let's get the network over. We'll attach it to Peacock. And they did. But now the thing is that the network's going to be just, you know, it's just all that content goes to Peacock. So that's like, WWE Network is just like not even a network anymore. It's still a network, but again, it's just, they're going to just move it off. I don't even know if they'll have a live stream anymore. Well, they're going to have to do that because of their pay-per-view, so they'll still have something like that. But there you go. It's an amazing accomplishment. So let's go more into the story of itself, because there's still so much more to be said. Now, moving along, let me go into the major entertainment stuff, the real inside stuff. The Wrap.com, in their professional section, they told a story about, well, yeah, I mean, you know, I can also talk about everybody knows the story about what happened here. So that's what needs to happen is, okay? All right, so let me go and put it like this. The story that you actually heard about, and we want to make sure that you know all this, because if I didn't say this yet, I'm going to go and say it right now so that all of you know what's going on. So, again, WWE has signed an agreement with Peacock that will bring exclusive U.S. rights to the WWE Network to Peacock starting March 18th. The terms were not disclosed, but a person familiar pegged the arrangement at about $1 billion. And the WWE Network's 17,000-hour lineup of original and library content will be on Peacock's $5 a month premium tier. Some streaming channels and partner brands are offered on Peacock's free basic tier. Peacock has made a sports the centerpiece of its strategy, streaming Premier League soccer, NFL football, NHL hockey, and a range of other sports. And the WWE deal will give Peacock exclusive access to the network. Initially was launched in 2014 as a $10 a month subscription service, an early direct-to-consumer initiative. The network last year branched out into free ad-supported streaming. Its presence will include both on-demand programming and a 24/7 live channel, one of several dozen featured on Peacock, and a linear TV-esque feature. So even Peacock is doing their own little channel lineup and live programming. They're doing that as well. So you got that. Nick Khan, let's get to where he says. He says, we are thrilled, quote, to further the long-standing and trusted partnership WWE has with NBC Universal. He's President and Chief Revenue Officer. Peacock is an innovative platform that will enable us to showcase our most significant events, including WrestleMania, and provide the extraordinary entertainment our fans have come to expect with a combination of premium WWE content, live sports, news, films, and television programs. And that it will share details on managing customer accounts closer to Peacock launch in March. So we'll know what they need to go and do for fans to go ahead and transition over. So that was the story that initially came out several days ago. Now here's what's being said across the board here of what's going on. And some of this we're going to talk about on my Broadcasters podcast tomorrow. So if you want to listen to that, I will bring some of that over to there because we're going to talk about sports programming and the transition over because of the moves that are being made. Now, here's the question that the Wrap asked. Will WWE Network folding into Peacock on March 18th open the door for NBC Universal parent company Comcast to buy WWE in its entirety? They say it's not out of the question, but the biggest obstacle to any acquisition will be Vince McMahon. It's like they're Ted Turner, the 75-year-old CEO and non-camera personality who owns 34% of WWE shares and 79% of its voting stock. So Vince has kept himself in a spot where he has a lot of leverage. But he will not be like Ted Turner and get thrown out badly. This guy is going to take a good deal to leave. With linear TV ratings, and live attendance when there were live events dwindling, and a general trend towards media consolidation, it has been within the realm of possibility that WWE could be acquired by an existing partner like an NBC Universal, which prior to the 5-year Peacock streaming deal already aired several WWE productions, or Fox, the home of SmackDown. The deal for the streaming content indisputably makes NBC Universal the pro wrestling company's closest partner, but this could be just a savvy arms dealer move to sell ammunition or content to the highest bidder in the middle of a streaming war, which is the other thing that's going to be considered. So there was the deal for content on linear, because remember, this is just an additional deal on top of what they already have as their agreement. $200 million they're getting with the USA Network to have their show on the USA Network, the $60 million they get for the NXT show, and the $1 billion they're getting for Fox. So again, you're thinking about the fact that how much money is this going to be altogether? You're talking about what, $700 million a year for a corporation. That's incredible. Now, the deal again spans 5 years, will cost Peacock about $1 billion. Two individuals with knowledge of the agreement told The Wrap. WrestleNomics Brandon Thurston and Lightshed partners Brandon Ross both believe it to be a more profitable setup for WWE than NBCU and benefits an outright acquisition. SmackDown again will stay on Fox. It's still there for 2 more years. Thurston told The Wrap, quote, "It makes more sense if Comcast acquires WWE as a whole. Why would you lease properties when you can own them? And you would probably want to own them indefinitely." Ross says, quote, "Such an acquisition would be a good cost-cutting move. Beyond the synergies buzzword, Ross believes NBCU, like Fox, will be better able to monetize the content than WWE's been doing itself. So again, WWE would just be a content provider. They will no longer have to distribute, but then they would have to answer to the corporate company, to this big entity, for their content to be good. There's going to be a standard set. And NBCU is far stronger on the technology management side than WWE is. That said, neither Thurston nor Ross are willing to bet on Comcast actually buying, or rather actually selling the Comcast. You get the distinction. Thurston says, "I don't think it'll happen in Vince's lifetime. I think what's more valuable to Vince than any more money is his ability to control the creative universe." Then Ross also says, whether or not a deal between Comcast and WWE should happen, it's 100% going to be fully up to what Vince wants. It's the way he wants it. And I'm skeptical that Vince wants to give up control of the company to someone else. He isn't even willing to give up creative control of the product at a time when ratings are deeply struggling. Thurston believes that WWE needs new creative control for the main roster product, and he thinks NBCU should want to buy the league and install its own team in storyline creation and marketing, among other creative components. It's not unprecedented. Former WWE competitor WCW was owned by Turner. Bellator MMA is currently owned by Viacom CBS. Thurston thinks there's a good chance new competitor WWE competitor AEW, which like WCW airs on TNT, goes down the same road. It's in your interest to own the content you're putting out on TV. They can very much do that. Own it instead. Ross also believes the next generation of McMahons, most prominently Chief Brand Officer Stephanie McMahon and her husband Paul Triple H Levesque, also prefer to keep control of the company in-house. There's a kind of compromise option here, however, if both parties were so inclined. Ross says, quote, you could acquire WWE to be a subsidiary of NBCU that exists and acts autonomous from the rest of the company and make that clear to shareholders. But again, Vince would have to sign off on that. Fat chance, unless he's pressured into making a move based on a fiduciary duty that will place a fat check into the wallets of shareholders. Even without an acquisition, the streaming deal that brings content from WWE, including its pay-per-views to Peacock, quote, deepens the partnership between WWE and NBCU and maybe further encourages a favorable deal for the next Raw negotiations. Same for the NXT on USA deal. Yes, there is still lots to discuss between WWE and Comcast, though today it's probably most about cross-promoting the WWE programming with that other Peacock star, The Office. So there we go. So much to be said here about what they're doing. That's important. Keep that in mind, folks, of what they're going to be doing and what this means now across the board for everything else that goes on with this company. But they did it. To their credit, they got this happening. It's done. More money into the coffers. Now, I can leave the podcasters to go ahead and talk about how this is going to suffer in the content. Yes, of course it is. When there is nothing compelling them, nothing persuading them, provoking them to go ahead and make significant changes. But again, they're working with a larger corporate entity that's going to want familiar faces, familiar product. They're going to want to have a product that is consistently of at least some people that they're aware of. You know, they're going to just, again, this is like a soap opera. You got to have the stars everybody recognizes. And, you know, they're just not good at building new stars that are going to become as big as the ones they have now. They have not been able to do that for a while. They have been incapable of doing that. Now, the other thing, too, is that, you know, when I see some stars that are leaving the company for other things, one of the things I think about as well is that because of this, I mean, what if NBC Universal said, oh, you know what? We're just going to go to hold on. Again, you know, there's so many different things in media that we have as NBC Universal that some of these WWE stars, and we start seeing that, oh, you know what, we can put them on this and that. You know, they don't need to go to a, you know, become like some big star outside of our realm. They can stay with us. We got Universal Studios, we got Universal Pictures, we got Universal Records, right? There's a lot of things we could do for any of these the WWE stars. You know, they're multi-talented, obviously. Look at what some of these stars are doing right now that have learned to go and become actors. Look at Sasha Banks. Why would she need to go anywhere else? I mean, yeah, she got the Mandalorian deal, but you know what? What would happen if Peacock, you know, they said, hey, you know what, Sasha Banks, we're going to put you on a show that it's going to be a driven vehicle for you, or you're going to be a major player casted into a role, into something we're going to do here, or for a Universal picture. It's like in the old days, where, you know, you just had stars that were under contract, and they just had different things for different pictures. Like, you know, movie studios just have multi-picture deals with somebody. Or when you have them under contract, who's to say that somebody that's already under the guise of WWE could say, hey, you know what? We want you to go and work on some stuff with us on Peacock. And the company already having a relationship, you know, they kind of play like the agent, get a fee, get a commission for whatever kind of content on the product they get, because they're using somebody with their name and likeness, with the name they have from the company, the trademark. Take them over there. See what they can do with it. They can very well do that. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just saying, there's a lot to be said about all this. Now, I could keep going on about this, but I don't want to do that because there's a major pay-per-view coming this weekend, and we haven't even talked about it yet. And I got to talk about this tonight. Royal Rumble is coming up this weekend. There will be a post-show for this coming up here at WrestlingIsReal.com. But here's what we got so far in terms of who's going to be competing at the Royal Rumble and what we have at the moment. Okay, let's go ahead and look at what's coming up in the Royal Rumble this weekend. Again, starts off 6 o'clock. That's the kickoff. So in the men's Royal Rumble match right now, 17 names have been announced. Numbers are not entry position unless stated otherwise. So Daniel Bryan, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Otis, The Miz, Jey Uso, Cesaro, Jeff Hardy, Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Shinsuke Nakamura, Big E, Sheamus, John Morrison, Mustafa Ali, and Edge are entered. They've been announced. Now, out of those names, I tell you what, it's just kind of tough. I like to see Jey Uso go far. I like to see Big E go far. They'll probably make Sheamus go far. That's what I see so far. If you wanted to go to Big E and have them go ahead and win this, you could. I don't think they will. But if I had to pick of anybody on this list, I mean, we don't know who's going to be coming up and be brought into the mix afterwards. Braun Strowman could very well come back. We haven't heard from him in a while. Seth Rollins could very well come back. We haven't heard from him in a while. Whatever reason, Edge is not in here, but I believe... Oh, no, Edge is there. There we go. So Edge could very well... But again, I don't know if they want to do that. And whoever they decide here, I don't think any of these people are going to be... They're going to be going after Roman Reigns for the title. Whoever wins this, I think Drew McIntyre... That's going to be Drew McIntyre's opponent. And it won't matter if it's going to be from somebody from Raw. I don't think that'll happen. What I think is, I don't know what they're going to think about this, but this is tough. I mean, honestly, I think if you wanted to do anything right now, I think it would be nice to see Big E win it or Jey Uso win it. That's where I want to go with things. But I don't know if they're either one of them are going to be winning this or not. And, the idea they had Shinsuke Nakamura kind of get some little bit of a rub, I don't know if that means much, if anything. So we'll just leave it there. I don't have much to say about who I think is going to be winning the Rumble or who could be brought back. I mean, that could be significant. That would make a big difference here. I don't know who that could be. So I'll just be surprised like everybody else. Now, in the Royal Rumble match for the women, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Bayley, Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, Peyton Royce, Alexa Bliss, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Tamina Snuka. Bianca Belair should win this. And she should be taking on Sasha Banks at WrestleMania. Just book it. It's time for her to get this. This will be good for her. Obviously, we'll be able to see the stamina. We'll be able to see the endurance here. It's a good match for her to go and shine. Let her win. Let her win. Or if not, let Bayley win, and she gets another shot at Sasha Banks. I don't know. I'll take it either way. And then I don't think about anybody that's going after Alexa, or to me for Asuka at this point. I'm not really thinking much about that yet. So there's 3 other matches that have been announced for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg. Drew McIntyre better win this in like 3 minutes. So I think what happens here is that I'm going to predict that Goldberg is going to spear Drew McIntyre, and he's going to break the pin. It'll be for a near fall. So Drew McIntyre is going to survive the spear. I think he'll survive the jackhammer too, and that'll be it. And Drew McIntyre will have like that John Cena, Hulk Hogan type thing where he'll just become Super McIntyre, and he will overcome Goldberg, spear, and jackhammer. And Drew will hit the Claymore on Goldberg and win. 3 minutes at the most. Last man standing match, Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. This will be another long, drawn-out match. This is one of those where I think Kevin Owens just needs to get beat up so much and that he's going to just take himself off TV. Again, I know they brought this back in. Will there be any plunder by Adam Pearce? I don't know. But Roman Reigns should not be losing this belt anytime right now, anytime soon. This guy should be a long-term champion. And make somebody... They got to build somebody to be worthy of taking that belt off of Roman Reigns. And there is nobody even close right now. It's not Kevin Owens. Just saying. So leave it all there. That's what we're coming down to. Roman Reigns wins that match as well. Charlotte Flair and Asuka will defend the tag team titles versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. This is where I think the tag titles will get dropped. Shayna and Nia will get them back, and Charlotte and Asuka will start a feud. Or something like that. And I'm thinking somewhere down the line that Charlotte Flair will win the belt off of Asuka, whenever that's going to be. That could very well be at WrestleMania. I don't know. And then Lacey Evans will somehow be in a feud with her, continuing on, because the affiliation with Ric Flair becomes something here that they think they can put together. I don't know. I guess. So really, this whole show, the Roman Reigns match should be a no-brainer. Drew McIntyre should be a no-brainer. It's going to be the Royal Rumble matches that we have to see what they're going to do. So they'll have time. It's going to feel weird not to have a crowd out there. That's going to feel weird because we haven't got to that point yet where we got to this pay-per-view where they still had a crowd last year. And the last major moment that we had of this company where Edge returned. We haven't had any excitement like that. Not since. So take it as you wish. A couple of the quick notes we want to go and make before we go and wrap things up for the show. AEW Revolution is now confirmed to take place in March. It's on March 7th. The main event of that night will be Team Taz versus Team Sting. Street Fight tag match. Brian Cage and Ricky Starks versus Sting and the TNT champion Darby Allin. Good stuff. And the Young Bucks will be defending the AEW Tag Team Championship against the winner of a Battle Royal, which will be held at AEW's Beach Break, which is next week. Good stuff next week, too. A good show. They got another, major pay-per-view type of thing next week. And so we have at Beach Break Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers facing Pac, Phoenix, and Jon Moxley. And Penta El Zero Miedo will be replaced by Moxley because of the Death Triangle for that match. And then a confrontation featuring Cody Rhodes responding to Shaquille O'Neal. And Dax Harwood of FTR will go on against... actually, that was for next week. So we know about that. And so the Beach Break, you got Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford's wedding. The six-man tag, Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, and a tag team battle royal with the winners facing the Young Bucks at AEW Revolution. Good stuff next week. So we're going to leave it there. Remember, we have a post-show for Royal Rumble coming up this weekend. We'll have that coming up for you. Check that out this Sunday night going on the Monday right here at WrestlingIsReal.com. And remember, subscribe to the show. Pass it along to everybody. Let everybody know about the podcast. And by the way, more importantly, for those of you who've been listening throughout the night, I know this is the time of year where everybody starts listening to the programming because it's always the bump that we get for ratings, or at least for downloads for me every year. It happens Royal Rumble time. So for all of you to be here and check in with me and listen to the show, I thank you for checking out the show and listening to it every week. And I hope you will pass the word to others because I've been doing this show for a long time. And, coming up on 600 episodes, I love it. I do it. And I'm glad for all these new people to come in and, check in with the show. And by the way, if there's anything you want to go ahead and pass along, announcements, questions, comments, anything like that, please go and email me, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com. And most importantly, do go ahead and subscribe to the show. I'm on the major platforms, Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, among others. And, of course, the audio host for this program. We're so thankful for Spreaker, SPREAKER.com, for doing all that they do for us. Very appreciative. And there we go. We're going to leave it there. Thank you for listening in, checking out the show. Come up and join us for Royal Rumble after the fact. We'll do a recap right here at WrestlingIsReal.com for another Wrestling Is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling Is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube. or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.